All right, we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest launch, which is called How to Create a Certificate Program. So this is a little bit different. This is not as much of a beginner level course as some of our others. So, we have courses at different levels. We have one on how to create an online course, which is more the beginner part. And this is how to create a certificate program. So this is where you would actually be measuring achievement more and rewarding people with something at the end, some level of certificate based on what they've achieved. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we go through. And if you've ever done any kind of certificate before, drop that in the comments. I'd love to hear where you're from, where you're dialing in from, what types of courses you've done. Any information about you, I'd love to hear. And any questions you have as we go along, make sure you drop those into the comments as well. And we will respond to them as we go. All right. And here's the thing today. Sarah and I were just discussing that. We've had some feedback that sometimes we spend a little too long going through the slideshow and the content of the course. Now, I know you want to see that and what's in it, but we can start to jabber a little bit. So we're going to try and stick to 15 minutes max on going through the slideshow and what's in the course and what we cover, and 15 minutes or so on all the other stuff. So the bonus and course book materials and action guide and all those other materials. All right. Sound good? And Nettie says hi.
We're going to go for it.
We are going to go for it. That's the URL in case you want to go over there immediately and not listen to us at all. contentsparks.com/certificate, but drop questions in as we go along. And I know some people show up later and watch this as a replay, but we'll still be looking out for comments if you tag us. All right. Can I jump right in?
Yeah, let's jump right in.
All right, let's do it. All right, I'm jumping straight in first to show you the screen. This is that URL I was just showing you, contentsparks.com/certificate. This is the page you're going to land on. There's a little overview of, why this course, why this is so important, and an overview of each of the modules. And I'm going to go into the slideshow to actually show you what's covered in those. And you'll see there's lists of the materials. So you'll get all that basic information here. There's different tabs that show you what materials are in the course. Lead generation. This is one of our beacon level, our mid-level courses. So it has the student materials, the instructor materials for teaching, which is primarily the slideshow. And then the lead generation materials in this case are just some social media posts. But we do have an upgrade pack with quizzes and sales page copy. So that's why this one's a little bit cheaper too. It doesn't have as much, but it has everything you need to teach the course. All right. And that's the launch bonus. You'll see information on that as well, which is only available during this launch period, which is just 1 week. So it ends next Wednesday at midnight. So that's the high level details for you from the sales page. Now I'm going to hop back over to the folder of materials. So when you get the course, you get 3 folders of material, which are in tiny little print here: the student materials, instructor materials, and lead generation materials. And then there's a PDF that has details of all the contents. So that's always useful too for your own big picture. There's the modules and learning objectives and what's included. All right.
I find that really useful for when I'm writing social media updates and sales page, anything relating like that. That content document I pull out and I keep it just by hand, just to glance at it. When you're doing a video and you think, what's in it again? Even though you can spend the last 3 days customizing it and living and breathing in it, it's a really useful prompt. So
don't ignore it. Right. Okay. I'm in the slideshow. This is your main teaching material that you're going to use when you teach this course. And this is a really good course for you to go through yourself so that you can add a certification to one of your own programs, okay? One of your own courses. So I highly suggest you go through it, make one of your courses, have a meaningful certificate on it, and then you can teach it to others. Or not, as the case may be. Some people I know have said they just wanted this for themselves to go through it. But we always try and make it brandable, or we always do make it brandable so that you can teach it at some point. All right, so it's called How to Create a Certificate Program. Boost your course value by officially recognizing your students' achievement. If there are any slides as I go through that you want me to stop on because you want more information, just drop a comment in there because, or Sarah, you stop me, because I am going to skim through some of these and just highlight main aspects of the course, main things you're going to cover. So there is an introduction, why people love certificates, and there's a big roadmap through the course. So the main modules you're going to cover, and I'm looking at my little speaker notes at the bottom here, which you'll get, are to they'll pick the right type of certificate for your target market. And I'll go through those different types of certificates. You'll specify the program parameters and delivery intent. Here, let me make this a little bigger so that you can see. Can you see better?
Yep, that looks good.
Okay. Program parameters is very, very important for a certificate because you need to be actually measuring things. And that goes into the one on learning outcomes and assessment types. How are you actually going to assess people? What are those specific measurable learning outcomes that will result in being rewarded that certificate? And then there's choosing enticing name and setting the price, creating that professional looking certificate. And we even give you some templates for that as just to start you off. Ways to celebrate achievement, because that's something people get a lot of satisfaction from, for people that get their certificate, doing some sort of celebration. And then ways to keep in touch with your students. And there is a final next steps module that has some additional tips and information. Things like if you need to do recertification, or if you even want to do an accreditation or formal certification where a third party recognizes it. We're not covering third party recognition in this particular course. This is something where you're doing it yourself and you're creating the standards for that certification or certificate. Okay, so learning objectives really map to those modules. Action steps, there'll be action steps on every single lesson. So people are your students are putting this into action as they go. Advantages, win-win for your business and your students. Now, students typically like to get certificates because they do give a sense of accomplishment, especially if they have a few formal qualifications. This adds to it. They may also need a certificate to enhance that. Like they might need it for insurance purposes. That's not something that we're covering in here because it needs that third party approval, but you should know that is something that some people will be interested in. It's something you could take to a next level later. Add to their portfolio, widen their opportunities in the job market, enhance their reputation. All these things a certificate helps with, especially if you structure it the right way, the way we're going to do it in this course. So there's benefits for your business, of course, like setting you apart from your competitors who are just delivering courses, online courses, and you're done. Or just a piece of paper that isn't really meaningful. It makes you look more like an expert and a thought leader, the fact that you're doing that and you've put all that time and energy and you're actually guiding people through and giving them feedback and recognition. You can charge more with a certificate program. It gives you more satisfaction too, because you see people getting that sense of achievement and seeing that they've actually mastered the skills that you're teaching. So there's business goals. So you need to get very clear on your business goals and the reasons for certifying your work. So increasing your income. So make sure this is very clear in your mind why you would want to do a certificate program. Chris says, I'm loving this already. Ideas are overflowing. Excellent. Take notes but take notes and you can always come back and watch it again. I want to hear what you do too, Chris, because I know you've done a lot of courses in the past. So greater value to your customers. When people just go through a course and just get a piece of paper, they're not really getting a lot of value. That's not the value that comes from offering a certificate. The value is actually seeing that they've achieved the standards that you've set. So that's where they're getting a lot more value, especially with your involvement, your more personal involvement in it. It expands your range of offers. So you can have a non-certificate program and one that comes with a certificate where they have to do more work and get more feedback and reach certain standards. So you see this a lot of time with universities doing this. You can take a free online course, or you can pay and get a certificate at the end where you're getting feedback from the professor. So that's a big difference. That's a great model as well. Not that I'm saying you should offer it for free.
No, I think that's a really great thing to do, as in the people who you want to help, who don't have a lot, you can help, but those that are going to use it for professional purposes and can claim it back on their expenses, or the people who should have a budget anyway, can pay for their certificate and the one-to-one support that they're getting. So it grows your list as well as growing your revenue. I think that's really, really great.
Yep, exactly.
Guess who's going to have one of those next week?
Yep. Add credibility to your brand. So you show that you're a learning organization, that you help people with learning. It'll help you find more business. You can attract people to your brand who are looking for certificate programs. You extend the lifetime value of your customers by adding more to an academy, an online academy like Sarah has, a whole range of things. So all of that adds. And as you build your brand, that certificate becomes more and more valuable. So don't think that just because you might be small now that you can't do one of these certificate programs, because when people see the value from it, you get more and more recognized. And as you build your brand, it becomes more and more valuable. All right. So the way this particular course is set up is that you'll pick an existing course that you have. So your students would pick an existing course and add some sort of certificate to that. Now, you could help people who don't have a finished course turn it into a certificate one, but it'll work best if they already have the basic materials, and that would take a little bit extra. So here's where you might add on something like start with how to create an online course and then make this the add-on or upsell, or market it to people who have the materials for a course, but they've never set it up and finished it. So at that point, they have something that they can add on to. So this is really important to know, that it's best if you do have a course already, and they'll have to decide which one to start with. And if you have your students or you have multiple courses, can look at sales figures to decide which one to focus on. How am I doing on time? I'm probably talking too much. I said we'd keep this to 15 minutes, a slideshow, and I said that's like impossible.
I think we've got about 5 minutes left on the slideshow.
Oh, forget it.
We're going to have to talk faster.
Talk fast. That's never going to happen. All right. So I said you could adapt existing content. Action steps, pick one. All right, 7 steps. So this is a 7-step process for creating a certificate program. All right. And it starts with, we have step 1 is providing what your target market wants. Step 2, specifying your course parameters. 3, how will you assess achievement? Then positioning your program for maximum sales, create certificates, celebrate success. And I just saw a typo, by the way. We'll fix that right away. I love when I go through something and I suddenly find a typo. Isn't that wonderful? Make a note of that. Actually, I can't stand it. I have to do it right away. I'm sorry. All right, we'll re-upload this. If you already have the course, which I know a few people do, you'll have to just make that edit yourself. It's not worth re-downloading. All right. Positioning your program for maximum sales is step 4. So the first 3 were the actual picking it, your parameters, how you're going to assess, position it, create certificates, celebrate success, and follow up.
I think the thing is, when you're looking at those lessons, you might think it's quite hard to do this, but if you've got Content Sparks courses already, you have all this in place already. You have your learning objectives, you have the goals of the audience. If you buy the upgrade packs, you've got the quizzes to assess at the end of each module. So we're all sitting here laughing at how easy this is for us. And perhaps, can I say it? I'm going to say it, laughing at those that don't buy Content Spark stuff, because this suddenly becomes hard for them.
All right, we have it all. The whole point is we have it all laid out in a logical sequence with action steps and learning objectives and the information. And the point really for that is people do think it's easy until you get into it and try and make something that's logical. I've had people in the past try and do courses for me and do the outlines and stuff, and it's hard to get that logical flow and make sure everything is actionable and makes sense and people will understand it. It's all clear. There's a lot of moving parts to making sure that works. So definitely worthwhile looking at these, and I think a lot of you already know that who are watching this. Okay, so these were the 7 steps, and there is a lesson on each one. So while this is module 2, it's a big module, and it's the major part of the course. So the first one is providing what your target market wants. So the type of certificate, there are different types of certificates. We talk about 3 in here. They're all slightly different. We have a certificate of completion or attendance. That's where somebody has just completed the course. All right. We don't really know, they've had some standards, some things they've had to do, but it's the much more basic level. It doesn't require as much of your involvement in it. You'll still want to measure, but there's not as much of your involvement because they're just showing that they've done it. Certificate of achievement is a much bigger thing. That's where you are having much higher standards, and we'll go through some ways to measure people's mastery of different skills and knowledge in a course so that you can actually award something that's meaningful. So that's the one you're probably going to want to focus on, the certificate of achievement. Certificate of authorization is a little bit different because that's really where you've measured someone's mastery enough that you feel you can authorize them to deliver that themselves. So this is particularly relevant if you have something like a branded, trademarked coaching process, for example, and you want to approve other people to be able to deliver that. Like you might want to subcontract out coaches or like a coaching franchise, and they need to have an authorization. This is not a third party thing where the International Federation of Coaches or someone else is getting involved. That would be a next level thing after you've done this. But this is something where you personally, your branded method, your signature system, you are giving them a certificate or license to be able to deliver it. Stream like a boss. Who's Tanya Smith? Hey, Tanya. Been on your radar for a bit. Excellent. I want to hear what you do with it. And if you have a specific course that you're thinking about doing a certificate for, drop in the comments what you're thinking, what type of certificate you're thinking about doing, and maybe even what course or what topic you're thinking of doing it on. And Tanya said, looking at authorization. Excellent. So that's one where you're thinking about something of yours that you're going to authorize people to deliver, presumably. Chris said, should there be an annual reauthorization recertification based on your research? That depends on what it is that you're
enthusiastically saying, yes, yes, yes.
It's something we mentioned at the end of this particular course is considering whether people need to be recertified or reauthorized. And typically I'd say yes in that sense, in that case as well, if anything changes, but the period of time might differ. So usually it would be at least every year. And you could do a special program that just is for people who are already authorized or certified to go through what's changed, or maybe demonstrate that they still have mastery of it, not the full program again. All right. And that's another opportunity for you to not only keep in touch, but have other things you can sell. Yeah, annual, Tanya said, you can see annual as well. Yeah, the only time I'm thinking, is there anyone who does it more often than that? I think there are some cases where people spread it out more if there's very little change, but I don't think it's usually more often than that.
I'm just thinking first aid certificates, they're usually 3 years. You have to get it updated every 3 years. A lot of the marketing programs that offer them every 12 months. The only one that's more frequent seems to be the Facebook one, because they change that every day of the week. So
Yeah, but those are
certificates for that, maybe monthly, but it depends on what you're certifying. If you're certifying something that updates very frequently, is fast moving, then you're going to need more frequent certifications.
Like I could
6 months.
Yeah, I could think something like technology. So if you have a software program that you've developed and you want to authorize people to teach that to their own clients, for example, and you've made a major update, I could see you requiring people to come back and get recertified on whatever the new features are. And say, okay, you guys need to come back. It's going to be this period of time. We're only going to need to spend, 3 hours, but you need to get recertified. All right. Can we move on? We good?
Yep. Tanya's got one more.
Video coaching methodology. Excellent. And do you have that as a trademark of some sort, or some sort of name on that? I'm guessing you do, Tanya, because that would be important to do if you haven't already. Okay. All right, let's keep going. I'm way past my time, naturally. So target market, you're going to want to go through and figure out what it is that they want that for. Job prospects, skills, something to show prospective employers, just credibility in general. And you want to do that typical sort of research. So I'm not going to go through all of that, the different sorts of methods. And then there's some examples in here. Oh, you've been filing since February, Tanya. Okay, I hope it finishes up soon. That's a long time. Good luck. Fingers crossed. So there are examples in here like the chromotherapy certificate course. And then you have to have a description of why that's valuable and who it's for. I don't even know something with color. Explains it right here. This is something that one of our instructional designers put together. I love it. The chromotherapy certificate course is ideal for counselors, therapists, massage therapists, holistic nurses, estheticians, spa and wellness professionals, aromatherapists, yoga instructors, energy workers, life coaches, naturopathic doctors, art therapists, and interior designers who want to learn the healing art of color therapy and use it to help their clients. That's a really long statement, but it does show who it's for. So I wouldn't use that in marketing, but it shows in your own mind who you're targeting. So you're going to map out the course objectives for your program. That's your first step in that first lesson. And there's a certificate outline that's going to help you do the high level. And that, I know I said I wasn't going to open anything else, but I do want to just quickly show that, because this is something, there's a whole action guide where everyone goes through stuff, but then there's an outline so that it can all be summarized. Your topic, your goal, your objective, who your target student is, and then the course structure, content structure, study time, and name and price. So this gives you the high level as you go through the course.
That's a really good thing to have, because your student at the end of it has a really actionable document that they can implement, rather than having them do the answers and they're all floating around their heads, around the rooms, and all over the place. They're nice and safe in one place, ready to take action on.
Yep, absolutely. So then we have the program parameters. Look at your curriculum. This is the heart of everything. It's your whole success is determined by the content of this course, of this certificate program. You have to go on a logical learning path. Some of this stuff is going to sound really familiar because it's what you would do with any course, but there's additional attention you're going to pay to certain things so that you can award that certificate. Has to be up to date, relevant to your market, of course. You want to map out the modules, how much study time it'll take. So people like to have an idea of how much work they're going to have to do, because it'll be more than usual. They have to know what they're going to be committing to. So as an example, you could have a 6-week online course with a certificate of achievement. Now, remember, that's the one I said most people probably want to focus on, because it's not just completion, but they're achieving the standards that you set. It can be 6 modules, mixture of text, videos, and quizzes, and then say they need 2 hours per week to complete the course, to complete the work. So that's just an example. You can have criteria for people actually being able to get into the course, and of course, completion. So those are 2 things to think about in these. Entry requirements you might have, or pre-work, an assessment, an entry quiz, submission form. You might even require to meet with somebody one-on-one. For instance, with Tanya, with your video coaching methodology, you might want to actually talk to someone before you approve them to be in your certificate program. Okay, yeah. Your authorization. You want to actually talk to them.
Got something that you're certifying somebody in your own signature system or methodology, you need to check there's a fit. There needs to be an alignment, because it is your brand that they're going out and talking about. And if there isn't that, they can do you a lot of damage. And yeah. Tanya agrees.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's some advantages to an entry requirement, which we kind of talked about. Not everyone, it makes it more valuable as well, and it keeps you aligned. And then we have completion requirements. So you're going to customize your templates. Certificate of achievements, we said, are more valuable. Tanya said you have a similar application interview process for coaching one-to-one. Yeah. And we actually talk about that in one of the courses, the course on From Prospect to Paying Client, about doing those free strategy sessions, are partly to help sell it, but to pre-qualify people too, to make sure they're a fit. So the achievement stuff, this is a core part of it, setting those standards. There's a variety of assessment methods. Sorry, I'm just going to skim through these and reminding myself as I go.
Yeah, we're on 24 minutes now, so only 9 minutes over our allotted time budget.
No pressure. You can't work out specific delivery methods yet, so you have to have an idea of how you want to provide it. So typically you could have an online course with no live interaction, an in-person course with classroom style, or a combination of the 2. I like the 2. Always using blended learning. It doesn't have to be in classroom, but you can have self-study stuff and live stuff. All right. So, and you can have any combination. You can have learning platforms. You start, if you haven't decided on a platform already, you should make sure you do that. You have your students do that. Make sure if you're recommending something to your students who are going to be learning to do a certificate program, that you have an affiliate link for that. So like we recommend Teachable and New Zenler. So you'll find our affiliate links to that in things like blog posts on our site. And you want to make sure it has what you need. So you now have people look at their curriculum that they already have and draft out the course map and their entry process and make sure they have a learning platform. Now the big thing, how will you assess achievement? And I don't know what the 3 is. I found another typo. Oh my God. Take that out if you already have the course. Sorry.
Remember, this is, if you've got these typos, keep them in the zip folder. It will be worth something, a small fortune one day. Don't get the recalled version. It's the one with the little flaws in it that people will spend a fortune for.
As soon as I'm done, I'm going to re-upload this. But again, if you already have it, take it out. All right. That's the only thing I've noticed so far, those two little things. All right. Learning objective. Thank you for having a sense of humor, Chris. I appreciate it. So this is, you need to define your learning outcomes. And this is something people struggle with a lot. How are you going to measure success? What exactly do you want people to learn? What's going to determine their level of mastery? So those are the big benefits of the course, where they're going to fit. We call those learning outcomes.
When you're delivering this, all your learning outcomes are done for you. So you don't have to worry about your learning outcomes for this very program because you've got them all already.
Yes, exactly. And all our courses have the learning outcomes, what we call learning objectives as well, in that course, because you see it at the beginning of each module or each program. But you're going to have to, if you're teaching this, you're going to have to help people create those learning outcomes. And they need to have action-oriented verbs. They have to indicate what people will be able to accomplish after completing the program. And they have to be able to be assessed by you, the person delivering the course. So this, again, is not a third-party thing where somebody else is coming in and setting the standards. You're setting the standards for this. So, I'm sorry. I forgot to, I thought I had my do not disturb on, but I obviously let my daughter's one come through. Sorry. So here's examples of poorly written learning objectives and well-written ones. So for instance, a hairdressing salon, students will learn about autoclaves. What is the hell? What does that mean? How are you going to measure that?
What the heck is an autoclave?
Well,
Somebody
that would be earlier. That would be earlier in that particular course as to being able to explain what an autoclave is. All right, well written is students will be able to operate and clean the salon's autoclave sterilizer according to set guidelines. Or say a training company, students will be able to use our learning platform. Not measurable. Well-written, students will be able to use our learning platform to effectively upload, update, and complete all training materials. What's an autoclave?
Yeah, we all want to know what this autoclave thing is.
So that's where you sterilize instruments, an autoclave, okay? Like in a nail salon, they always put the cuticle things and the scissors or whatever into an autoclave to sterilize it. Okay.
It's a sterilizer.
Marketing agency, poorly written. Students will know how to use marketing data. Doesn't tell me anything at all. Well written. Students will be able to interpret marketing data and create graphs that display their analysis visually. Okay?
And I've seen so many of those poorly written ones for marketing. And yeah. They're never getting my money again because they're shortchanging me, clearly. I want a nice, well-written one.
And we have a spammer, if you could get rid of that person.
It's done.
Thanks. So this is important not just for you, but for your students, because this tells you how you can assess. It makes you really drill down and think about what you want people to do. You know, you're going to show them how to use marketing data, but what way? You know, how are they going to demonstrate that? And that helps you determine how to assess it. But it also tells students exactly what they're going to be able to do so they can visualize what they're going to be able to do when they finish your program. And that's important for any type of course. All right. Don't create more than 3 learning outcomes for any one module, or it's overwhelming. That's where you want to keep things bite-sized. And then there's different ways of assessing. So you want to make sure that you're testing and assessing in order to be able to award that certificate. And I'm going to jump ahead to, here's those examples again. So hairdressing salon, an assessment method would be a quiz on problems created by poorly maintained sterilizers, autoclaves,
Yay!
demonstration of cleaning process on a machine. So they'd also have to demonstrate. Or I'm glad I could help. Assessment methods for a training company, questionnaire on what students can and can't do on the learning platform, a project to upload the new course material, including video and audio. So that's another one. Another thing, or a marketing agency, it could be a case study where you provide data and ask the students to create a graph from it, and ask them a series of questions to check their interpretation. So things like case studies are going to be important for you, Tanya, when you do that authorization. So key ways to test knowledge. First, you can have a knowledge test. You can have some sort of discussion with you where you're asking questions and seeing how much they retained. You can have text where, questions and they have to write an answer, which you'll look at and see if they understood it. Case studies, give them information, ask them to answer a series of questions, and then you can evaluate whether they got it. Application of knowledge, this is that higher level of measurement that you'd need, especially for certificate of achievement. So you can assess that through somebody demonstrating performance of a task, and that could be live, or you could have them record a video where they're doing it. You can be watching them. So for instance, Tanya, with you certifying someone in your methodology, when you get further down the line and you're confident in their skills, you can be watching them with a client and making sure they're doing it the way they're supposed to. So that would be what we call a field audit. Can give a project to work on to assess how people have applied what you've taught them, and a simulation, like working with a practice client rather than starting out with a real client. So you could do a role play, that kind of thing. Because these are always the more difficult things to measure, with something, a level of achievement where they have to show you that they've done it. So you're going to adapt it you can adapt it to whatever you need based on your learning platform. A lot of learning platforms now do allow for that interaction live coaching where you can be on Zoom or something else and they demonstrate, or for submitting their work and you reviewing it. So make sure you look at that in your platform. I know New Zenler has a lot of that. Teachable has that, and others too.
Yeah, I was just thinking in the New Zenler, you can set up a end of module quiz. And if somebody doesn't score more than 75%, they don't get to go on to the next module. But you can set it up so if they do, at the end of it, they're automatically issued their certificate. So there's less hands-on for you, because if you're doing a certificate of completion or maybe achievement, it's going to be the lower end of how much you charge. But if it's a certificate of authorization, there's going to be more input from you. So it's going to be at the higher end. And if you're having to sit on calls and do things with the individual to measure them, that's your time. So you can't sell that at $97. You're looking at $1,000 upwards. So using the right learning platform that can automate a lot of this for you is a real big step in the right direction. Because the other thing is if somebody can't get the 75% they need, they don't get to speak to you and do the live demonstration because they're clearly not ready. And being the queen of liking to do things at 100 miles an hour, I get infuriated by these things that make me have a 80% pass mark, because I just want to do it all in 5 minutes and then have my one-to-one and then be done. But I've not learned.
Or demonstrated. Correct. Okay. So I'm going to go faster, if that's possible, for the rest of this, because the bulk of the bit of creating the program you've seen. Now comes positioning it, naming it, some stuff on marketing it. That's going to be you can do a whole separate program on that. So positioning it is like choosing a name. And here's something we pointed out: don't try to be too clever, because then people don't know what you're talking about, and they'll just skim over it. I've made that mistake myself. So I'm going to tell you right now, don't get too complicated.
Every day of the week I make this one. The too clever, too complicated, too British, too not British.
You think you're being witty, you're being really witty, but if nobody understands it, then it's not a great name. So things like customer service superstar certificate programs, certificate in advanced copywriting, high impact leadership certificate, certificate in business coaching. That's kind of blah. I would probably change that. And then we give you lots of alternate words that you could use: mastery, foundation, training. Tanya said, you've been there, keep it simple. It's tend to lapse. I know, especially with when you're the expert, you're creating these courses, and we have so many brilliant coaches and consultants and other service providers in our customer base, and we tend to get a little carried away with ourselves at times. Training, award, map, blueprint. There are lots of different words. I use a site called wordhippo.com. If you want to type that in, Sarah. I love WordHippo because it comes up with some more unusual ones and gets you thinking, much better than just a thesaurus. Things like hair coloring mastery, collision repair award. That's an interesting one. Keep it short. All right. Lifestyle Academy certificate in relationships. Yeah, add in your brand name if it's self-explanatory and nothing too fancy. But don't assume everyone's going to know your brand, because there aren't that many that people know. Pricing from free to thousands, but people don't rate free very highly and won't reflect the value. So Sarah, you mentioned a little on that, so I'm going to just go through a little bit and skip through. You have financial goals you might want to set for that. I'm going to skim through this. Setting your financial goals, and then creating certificates. You want it to be professional. And this is where I said that we give some examples, but there's some basic information you want to include on it, like this type of certificate, the name of the student, name of the program, your name. Here, let me show you an example. You can turn that off, Sarah. Let me pull up. So here's an example. We gave like a few different ones. I think there's 3 different ones in here in PowerPoint. And if you're using other software, there may even be templates already. So here's just one example. If it's Color Therapy Institute, Certificate of Achievement.
And I thought, that's really colorful. And then I thought, oh, color therapy. It was really, yeah.
That green color, not suitable for your next hair color. The blue, maybe the orange, the red. Yeah, I like the red. And then there's a template in there. Or here's another one, Tailwind Massage, very soothing color as well. So from massage therapy training. And then here's another one for Certificate of Performance. So you just change the names and words and create your own template. These are ones that you could do in Canva as well. Canva may even have some templates ready for certificates. So that's an easy way to do it, but we give you a few. And then I'm going to just move ahead. Celebrate success. You say you want to incorporate ways to celebrate achievement in your programs. And yeah, people like to share things. You can have a celebration party. You can mail them a physical version of their certificate, send a congratulatory letter and gift, record a video honoring them and post it on their social media platform, shout outs on social media, directory of certified students on your website. That's very useful. So again, I'm using Tanya as an example. When you have people who you've authorized already to teach your coaching methodology, you could potentially have a section as a resource on your site for, if that's something you wanted to do, where people can pay to be listed. Sometimes there's directories, or you're getting a commission of some sort. I don't know, you could work out the details, but there are different things you could do there. Find creative ways to fit with your brand. Okay. And then follow up. Make sure you follow up with students. So you know this. make sure you share updates and revision, have things that they're doing, ask for video, get recommendations, etc. And then in the next steps, I just wanted to point out a couple things in here. There's some tips on marketing your certificate program. I did mention that would be a whole nother course that you can deliver. So if you're teaching people how to create a certificate program, get through actually creating it and naming it and pricing it and planning it all out. Then you can do a separate program on launching and marketing your course. You could take our course on how to launch and market your online course and adapt that, which would be a really good way to do that, to have that added. So we didn't create a whole nother thing here because the material is already there. And then what I said, there's just some different ideas. Recertification we talked about earlier. So maintain quality over time. Do you have evergreen content? You have to decide what makes sense there. And then you have to decide what you're going to do with students who've already paid. So you might have a simple update, a refresher. It might be something that's included in the initial certificate program as well. Or it could be something they have to pay for every year. And then one thing I wanted to say was accreditation is, I mentioned earlier, that's something where you have to be recognized by another organization and you have to comply to their standards. So it isn't necessarily complicated, but it can be time consuming. So think about that and see whether it would make sense for you to do that, depending on your methodology. It might be something, Tanya, you would eventually want to do with a coaching federation as an idea. See how it works. But you have to see, because everyone has different requirements involved. So that's why we didn't cover that here. But you can charge more for that. And you probably have a bigger market. So that's something to think about down the line. And then there's the action guide. And that is it. Okay, how much did I go over? Half an hour?
42 minutes on the slides. So we were 25 minutes over. Yay! A target to beat for next time.
Thanks. All right. But I think we had a lot to cover. Designations. I'm not
you
quite sure.
You get to choose, Chris. And that's the joy of this. You can choose what you call it.
Yeah.
I would go with something that people would repeat. And something like CCPT or CCPE is a bit of a mouthful. If you could make it, say, CCP or a word even, and call it like a keep or something like that, the designation is easier to remember and be used and becomes associated with you.
Yeah, because I wouldn't know what those mean straight away. And this isn't something where they're putting it after their name. This is a certificate.
Yeah.
This isn't an MBA, which I would never put after my name anyway, but I know some people do. I want to show one more thing, and that is the launch bonus, because I mentioned that before, and this isn't something that's going to be available again. And this is an assessment. It's in a Word doc and in Canva. I'll open up the Word doc first. And this is great as a lead magnet.
Yeah.
And to qualify people for coming into your course on how to create a certificate program. So it's, should you turn your course into a certificate program? It has a whole bunch of questions in here and then scoring at the end. So you can set this up in any kind of form or quiz. Or even have it as a discussion with someone, have them fill it in and then discuss it with them.
Yeah, that's like a discovery call right there. That just saves you hours of having to work that out yourself.
Let me show it in Canva as well, if I can open my Canva. The link to the Canva is in a PDF. Oh, this is going to open it up. Let me open it up here. See if it'll open up there. This is going to tell me to use the template. I don't want to open it up because I'm not, but I'll just skim through the preview of it so you can see that it's going to be an easy thing for you to edit. Okay.
And easy to brand as well.
Yeah. All right. That is everything, unless there's something else you want me to show. I did say there's an upgrade pack that has the module quizzes and that has the sales page copy. Ah, Chris. Okay. Excellent. Tell us what you end up doing with it. I would really love to hear, because I know you have a ton of stuff to offer on that. And I'm looking out the window because I see an electrician arrive.
Yeah, he's come to cut you off for being on too long.
I hope he doesn't cut the electricity off just as I'm talking. If I disappear, Sarah, you're in charge.
Yeah.
Then
So
you're
the
all in
module
trouble.
quizzes. I love the module quizzes. I never use them as module quizzes, which means I'm very creative with them. I often use them as talking points to get people interested in things. And lately, I've been thinking about expanding them into blog posts, because I've sat there and I'm sitting there thinking, if I have these conversations and do these as mini live streams and things like that, what do I do with that content? Yes, I can repurpose it into a blog post, blah, 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 blah. But how does that help somebody? And then I'm thinking, oh, if I put the video in and then there's the quiz underneath, right? They come in, they get intrigued by what's going on in the video, then they take the quiz themselves. So having these is a really, really useful thing. It's not just end of module quizzes. You can use them to start conversations. You can use them to assess people. You can use them to make more content with. They are just fabulous. If you've never got one of these upgrade packs, they'll change how you do things. The sales pages speed things up. The module quizzes just make your life easier. They're just an absolute time saver. Ah, look at that. There's the sales page. Now you see all those rainbow colours on there. They're the bits that you change. So all of us can have this template, and every single one of them will be different, because we will call it a different course name. Right. We will add in different testimonials. We have in our own experience, like the first certification we taught. How did we find it? Was it good? What about the first one that we put together ourselves? How long did we spend on YouTube watching videos to be none the wiser? How many people did we ask to be having the doors slammed in our face? All of us have got our unique stories. So when we add them where the coloured bits are, our sales page becomes unique and speaks to our audience. And having this template really, really speeds things up. And once you've done one, you can clone it and swap out the red bits over and over again. And it's just amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
So I'll stop fangirling over that. And
it's good because there's all these prompts to help you think about what should go in there. All right. And there's some suggestions for headlines, but use them as your starting point because it should make sense for your audience. You might see a couple things underlined like this that are UK versus US spelling.
Yeah, sorry.
Pick the right one. No, it's, I think in the US it's 2 L's. In the UK it's 1. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's everything for the most part. There is an upgrade bonus as well of those other, whatchamacallit, social media images. And there is another suggested course that's on sale that is our facilitation skills course. So that's a useful one that if you don't have, you might want to get it. It's the Blaze one. It's bigger, but it's not massive. It's more to help people with facilitating workshops and meetings and webinars and things like that to get engagement, interaction. So that would be a really good add-on, and you'd see that on the upsell page. I don't call it an upsell page. I call it a suggested add-ons page. I have a thing about that.
That's much nicer.
I just have a thing about it. It's one of my pet peeves. So there's the upgrade pack because it's just things that will be helpful. And then there's a suggested course, facilitating with confidence. All right. So it's good to see that. And that's everything. So I am going to just leave you on the sales page there again. It's telling me I can't add another my cart because I can't. You're only allowed to buy one. Please make sure you only have one because that's all you need. And then head over to this URL. Let me go back to us. So we're here. Head over to this URL to get your license, contentsparks.com/certificate. Please either email us at support or tag us here. The support, if you have questions, is support@contentsparks.com. So if you do have questions, you can email there. Fiona keeps an eye out on that, and I do as well. And otherwise, you can still drop comments in here that we'll see on Facebook if you tag us. I never see them on YouTube, so that's why we give you that support email as well. All right, and that's all. I look forward to hearing what all of you do with your certificate programs, what kind of things you do. All right, and Sarah, thanks for helping out with all of that. Appreciate it. All right, take care now.
And you didn't
I'm going
get cut
out.
off.
Huh? I'm going to go play in the
cut off
snow.
by the-
I didn't get cut off, but it's snowing like crazy here, so maybe I'll go play in the snow.
Ah.
All right, talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.